Jonathan Kuminga may be the answer to the Warriors' defensive versatility problem. Often lost in the discussion of championship-winning NBA teams is one crucial truth: it's darn near impossible to win a title if you don't have an elite defense. Defense wins championships is perhaps the most overused cliché in professional sports. But overused doesn't necessarily equate to untrue. In this particular case, it has been proven to be a fact throughout the past 2 decades. Look no further than last year's iteration of the Warriors. Lost in the transcendent defensive performance of the Boston Celtics was the fact that the Warriors weren't far off behind them, and at one point were themselves on track to become a transcendent defense. Before Draymond Green went down with a back injury that kept him out of a huge chunk of early 2022, the Warriors had a defensive rating that was 8.8 points per 100 possessions, better than league average, which was on track to match the 2004 San Antonio Spurs record for the best relative defensive rating since 1977. Even while racked with injuries, COVID protocols, and the natural dog days regression that is part and parcel of a long NBA season, the Warriors still managed to finish last season as the second stingiest team, just behind the Celtics. It was apropos that the best and second best defenses met in the finals, and that whoever would come out of it would be the team that locked the other down. The two best defenses don't always meet in the finals, but you can count on one hand the teams who didn't finish as a top 10 defense that have won a title in the past 20 years. The 2018 Warriors finished 11th in defensive rating and still managed to win the title, mostly because they still had Steph Curry and Kevin Durant, but also because they flipped the switch and became the best defensive unit of the 2018 playoffs. The other team that managed to win the title despite not finishing as a top 10 defense, the 2001 Los Angeles Lakers, a team who was only 21st in defensive rating during the regular season. However, just like the 2018 Warriors, these Lakers had an all-time offensive duo in Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant. Again, just like the Warriors, they also managed to flip the switch and became the best defensive unit in the 2001 playoffs. Deciding to flip the switch from a mediocre defense to the absolute best in the playoffs doesn't always work. History's proven that it's been the exception and not the norm. For this current iteration of the Warriors, whose 112.7 points per 100 possessions places them 16th in the league, it feels as if flipping the switch is even more of a far-fetched possibility. Not with the kind of personnel that now occupies their roster. The departures of Gary Payton were initially announced, and it continues to sting with every missed rotation, every blow by, and the apparent lack of defensive versatility that was their calling card last season. In their place are veteran signings in Donte DiVincenzo and JaMychal Green. DiVincenzo is by no means on the same level of perimeter defense as Payton II, but he has been solid, which is all you can ask of someone expected to fill the shoes of one of the best defensive playmakers in the league. Green, on the other hand, hasn't lived up to expectations, and is a far cry from the value Porter Jr. provided as a spacer, connector, and intelligent team defender. The rest of the roster beyond the foundational 6 are filled with youth, some that are ready to contribute, and others that need more work. In terms of defensive contributions, Jonathan Kuminga has shown plenty of flashes as a point-of-attack defender and one-on-one lockdown specialist. Compare in contrast, when Green is drawn out toward the perimeter, he has trouble trying to keep his man in front. His feet are often out of position, mostly through a mixture of poor fundamentals and slow feet. He often gets blown by whenever his front foot gets too far out ahead of him, resulting in blowbys, layups, and fouls as a result of Green having to be handsy.
Harden's injured eye, you can see eyes both.
Bloodshot.